My name is Kim Becker. I'm a second-year part-time student at USC in the military social work program, and I'm currently doing my internship at Jefferson Middle School.
Tell me about your personal experiences with military-dependent students or military dependents.
I am a military spouse. I do have 3 children. My husband has deployed 4 times to Iraq and a total of 8 years in our 19-year marriage. Our children have, they're 14, 16, and 8. So my teenagers have dealt with 9/11 and have been part of the deployments since 9/11. Currently in the schools, Jefferson Middle School has a population of about 60% of military children. It's the middle school, it's off base, so it also has actually quite a diverse student population.
Do you think there's a difference between the DoD-run schools versus the public schools and the way that they deal with military dependents?
I have read research and articles that have stated that DoD schools have higher academic scores. And the climate and culture of a DoD school is a little bit different than a public school that is off base. And one of my missions while I'm an intern at Jefferson Middle School is to improve the climate and culture of that school that is off base. My intent is to create a sense of belonging for the military child by integrating their military culture into their public school environment. And my first project to do this is actually going to happen next week. And we have taken in a military tradition, which is the Marine Corps birthday ceremony. And I've actually gotten a lot of community support from Oceanside High School and El Camino High School and the junior ROTC program at those schools. And they're going to come in and do an entire United States Marine Corps birthday ceremony at Jefferson Middle School. The principal has been very supportive of this, as he understands that this school needs an improvement in their climate and culture, and that is actually one of his goals for this school this year as well. So we are going to recognize the military child by having this ceremony performed at the school. And one really cool thing, I'm totally excited about it, is that in a traditional Marine Corps birthday ceremony, the cake is brought in and presented, and it's a very ceremonious, march of the cake. The first piece of cake always goes to the oldest Marine, and the second piece of cake goes to the youngest Marine. And it's to symbolize the passing of trust and knowledge, honor, and wisdom. And for our ceremony next week, we're going to honor the oldest and youngest military child in an attempt to, and it's not an attempt, it's to symbolize the military child's strength and resiliency. So I'm really excited about that. The second thing to improve the culture of the military, to improve the culture and climate of the school within Jefferson Middle School, I've started up a newcomers club. And my purpose to start up this club, and it's some kids that are military and some that are not military, happens to be about 50% are military by just the roll of the dice. And my intent there is to create healthy relationships between all of the students and the teachers by bringing in little bits and pieces of their background and their culture. And so I'm looking forward to doing that in Jefferson Middle School too.
Those are really good programs. And
Thank you.
I didn't even know that I'm an Army brat, so I don't know anything about the Marines or
well,
the Marine birthday, so I didn't know that was part of the tradition.
It's a very, one of the most important traditions that the Marine Corps, military loves ceremonies. You do know that, right? So recognizing the birth of the Marine Corps has been 235 years, November 10th. So it is a very important tradition of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So having this at a public school, to me, is just, I think it's going to really just emphasize the importance of our military in this community.
Yeah. What are some of the advantages or challenges that you've encountered dealing with military children in schools?
One of the biggest things is a sense of belonging. Not only because of being different than their peers in a public school environment because their parent has a different job than everybody else's, but also many children relocate several times during their lifetime because of their parents' job. And being able to move to a new school and fit in is oftentimes hard, especially depending on their age. Personally, when I moved here about 1.5 years ago, and my son was in the middle of the school year in 8th grade, and he just had a very difficult time fitting in. And he went from being known in a community that knew him for his sports, knew him for his family, knew him for his brother, to all of a sudden being just another kid in 8th grade in a really big school.
Yeah.
So it's challenging for these kids that are relocating 3 or 4 times in their school year. But I would like to see some consistency as far as a structured welcoming and kind of like to check in the box. Okay, Johnny just got here from North Carolina. Let's make sure that transition is easy for him by, giving him a tour of the school, by making sure that he's hooked up with somebody that also likes basketball. And let's make sure, his grades are showing that he struggled in math, so let's hook him up with that tutor, that after-school tutoring. And just to have that sort of, checklist of things to make sure that child transitions easily into a new school system.
Yeah.
And helping them connect to their community as well is really important.
Are you familiar with any initiatives or special programs that are targeted for military dependents?
I am. I have been involved in the entire transition of the Family Readiness the Family Readiness Program, and which has been over the last 3 to 5 years being implemented in all of the bases to ensure connectedness between the military family and the base and their community. They've recently added a component of the school liaison officer, who is supposed to work in concert with the family readiness officer to ensure things like relocation occurs smoothly, that deployments are not as difficult as they have to be with the supports that are set in place on base. And it is we call it the FRO, the Family Readiness Officer. The FRO's job is to make sure that the families are getting the support that they need in all systems within their life.
What do you consider to be the top priorities when dealing with military children?
Well, recognizing they're not only a military child, and they are a 12-year-old boy or they are a 5-year-old little girl. And deployments and being in the military is their daddy's job. And something interesting I've found with the younger kids is that when I have asked them about their daddy's deployment, they go, "Oh, you mean when he left me, again?" And they don't even realize that's not normal, And so it's just something that happens. And I think that recognizing that resiliency, like I said earlier, their resiliency and their strength and just accepting what happens to them is just really important to recognize that first.
How do you think the public education has responded to the needs of military dependent students?
I can only speak as a parent first of all, because I have been in the public schools as an intern, as an observer, and a student, just for a couple months. And so first, as a parent, having had to go through that move with teenagers, I felt that the public school didn't have anything for me as a military dependent and as a military family. Being in a school where my whole intent is to try to include a military child or give them some ownership, it's not going to be difficult with the right players. And if the administrators can buy into the fact that we can do this. And I'm saying that because I am a huge optimist. and I have just with my first little project of doing this entire birthday ceremony, it's been received well. I haven't had any roadblocks from the administration, and and I think they're just lacking ideas. They're lacking ideas. They're lacking motivation, and they're lacking the fact that they don't know that there's a need to do this. So, being able to bring that awareness into the schools is going to be one of the biggest challenges, and then having them buy into the fact that there is a need.
Yeah, and that's one of the topics of each interview that people have touched on is how do we get awareness out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully, by recognizing military traditions, by recognizing military children, by little things, like like you said, and we've been talking about it in an elementary school setting, kids don't even know that they're different from other kids, and that's okay that we don't point that out. Yeah. But we could help them cope with any other stressors that are a result of them having a parent in the military, without making it a huge negative thing.
And then final question, what are some of the lessons or teachings, I guess, that you've learned, or what else do you think that other people can take out of this workshop this weekend?
I came in here with wanting to talk about how to track a child who has lost a parent to war, how to understand the long-term effects of a child who is dealing with an injured or loss of a parent. And I didn't even realize that's what this whole thing was about. So it's actually been really helpful to get the perspective of how to do that in a way that's sensitive to the child, sensitive to the spouse, and also having a perspective of the whole perspective of the entire military culture. And it's kind of given little snapshots of each of those things that makes me want to come back tomorrow and wrap it up, for sure.